The IBF ruled Janibek Alimkhanuly cannot meet his mandatory defense after a suspension tied to a positive drug test. Janibek Alimkhanuly, 17-0, 12 KOs, has been stripped of the IBF middleweight title following a suspension tied to a positive drug test. The ruling leaves the unbeaten Kazakh southpaw returning with only the WBO belt once the suspension ends. IBF Championships Committee Chairman George Martinez confirmed that the decision came down to timing. The organization had scheduled a mandatory defense for early July, but the suspension made it impossible for Janibek to meet that obligation. Alimkhanuly is unable to fulfill his mandatory defense obligation on July 4, 2026, Martinez wrote in the ruling circulated to the IBF board. Accordingly, the IBF middleweight title should be vacated immediately. The disciplinary process began after Janibek tested positive for meldonium and was pulled from a planned unification fight with WBA champion Arislandi Lara late last year. Kazakhstan's Professional Boxing Federation later issued a 6-month suspension backdated to December 2, the date Janibek was removed from the Lara fight. The Association of Boxing Commissions recognized the penalty and set a June reinstatement date. IBF rules go further, however. Fighters under anti-doping suspension cannot compete in IBF-sanctioned fights for a full year. That restriction runs through December 2, 2026, which prevented Janibek from defending the title within the organization's mandatory schedule. Medical records submitted during the investigation stated that the substance entered Janibek's system during emergency treatment in Kazakhstan. Doctors treated him for severe neurological symptoms later diagnosed as a transient ischemic attack and administered Ripronat, a medication containing meldonium that is legal domestically. An 8-member disciplinary panel ruled that the violation involved minimal negligence and issued the reduced suspension.
Even with that finding, the IBF calendar left little room to maneuver. The ruling ends a title reign that began when Janibek stopped Vincenzo Gualtieri in October 2023 to unify the IBF and WBO belts. The decision also opens the door for a new IBF champion to emerge at middleweight. Italy's Ettinosa Oliha, 21-0, 9 KOs, and Britain's Shaquille Thompson, 15-0, 11 KOs, sit near the top of the rankings and are expected to be considered for a fight for the vacant belt. Thompson is currently scheduled to face Brad Pauls later this month in Manchester, which could complicate immediate plans for a title fight. Janibek will still have a path back into the IBF picture once his suspension period expires, but the ruling removes him from the sanctioning body's championship line for the rest of the year. The middleweight division now has one less unified champion and one more vacant belt waiting to be claimed.